Nick Sandmann is the Covington Catholic child who was doing nothing wrong when a Native American guy walked up to him and then was banging a drum in his face, and the media portrayed him as a racist immediately. Now, the conservative media, at the initial moment when the Sandman video came out, were also portraying Nick Sandmann, like a few people in the conservative media, as the bad guy. I looked at the video, like not being pre-programmed to see the MAGA hat as something racist and see this guy as a Native American and therefore a victim. And I said, I don't know what's going on. Like, there's nothing in this video. Like, is there more context? That was my first initial reaction to the Sandman thing. And you could go back through my Twitter and find that reaction. Like, I actually had this right from the jump. Thank you for the subscription. Let me send that thank you. I do appreciate that. Enjoy the emoji. So I actually had the Sandman thing right just because I didn't see anything in the first video. But, oh, that's DJ who also subscribed. Thank you, DJ. But yeah, a lot of the conservative media, they totally messed it up. Oh, I have a hype train. I don't know what that means. So a lot of the conservative media were wrong on this. Like Ben Shapiro jumped on the Sandman thing from the jump. And then, of course, he ended up being somebody who helped out Nick Sandmann, but initially he was wrong. The Covington Catholic kids did nothing wrong. Nick Sandmann was being confronted in an awkward situation, and he just smiled and kept his hands behind his back. But because he was wearing a MAGA hat, because they were there for the March for Life, like the anti-abortion protest, he got all the blame. And because the person that was banging the drum in his face was a Native American, that was the problem, right? Because it all read as like this perfect tale for the left to attack. And I believe this happened in January, I want to say. So it was like the third race hoax that month. Because if you remember, they had the Jasmine Barnes thing where everybody on the left was convinced that a white person in a red hood shot Jasmine Barnes. Turned out to be two black guys. There was the Sandman thing, which I believe was also in January. And then there was Jussie Smollett to round out the month. So we started off 2019 with 3 straight race hoaxes, and this was one of them. But Nick Sandmann gave a speech at the RNC. I haven't seen anything except for the spoiler alert moment where he puts on his MAGA hat. He also sued CNN, sued all these different companies, and ended up getting a settlement because he was underage when they were lying about him. So he has been compensated in some way for this. Thank you, by the way, for doing the thing. I do appreciate that. Thank you for subscribing with the Amazon Twitch Prime. Appreciate it. But yeah, so he did get some money for that because it's easier in the United States to sue if you're underage than if you are over the age of 18 because the defamation laws are a little looser. And also people were like calling culinary schools because they found out he wanted to be a chef and telling them that he was a racist. It was just a total disaster. But without further ado, let's hear Nick Sandmann. Oh, and he's got chords right there. You saw that? So I'm not a big...
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick.
Oh, wait, I didn't go back far enough. See, these are chords. This means he graduated with honors right there, right? Like the magna cum laude, and then there's like an S one, sula cum laude. I definitely pronounced that wrong. So this guy's a scholar. He's going to get a scholarship. Not that he needs one anymore, because CNN kind of paid him a scholarship. But yeah, so enter Sandman time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Sandmann, and I'm the teenager who was defamed by the media after an encounter with a group of protesters on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial last year.
I was so close to saying rioters as the correction because now what a protester means is so different from what it meant back then. But yes, they were technically protesters then.
Before I begin, I'd like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to share some of my story and why it matters so much to this November's election. In 2019, I attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C., where I
Nick Sandmann has been replaced as a meme by the Kyle Rittenhouse kid. I'm starting to see everybody in the comments with that guy's poster, that guy's picture instead of Sandman.
Demonstrated in defense of the unborn. Later that day, I bought a Make America Great Again hat because our president, Donald Trump, has distinguished himself as one of the most pro-life presidents in the history of our country, and I wanted to express my support for him too. Looking back now, how could I have possibly imagined that the simple act of putting on that red hat would unleash hate from the left and make myself the target of network and cable news networks nationwide?
It is crazy what happened to him because he objectively did nothing wrong. Like, this was like the Rorschach test. If you were, thank you for the bits. I do appreciate that. The real DJ Batman. Guys are trying to boost up my hype train. That's totally dope. I do appreciate that. Yeah, he objectively did nothing wrong. It's just if you are predisposed to believe that he did something wrong, then you just assume that. And I remember talking to people who were saying, "Oh, I've had that look," and there were articles written by this. It just wasn't idiots in like my normal life and across the country and on Twitter. There were actually like news articles that were writing about how Nick Sandmann's look is the look that white men have been giving Native Americans and minorities in the history, all the history of the United States, like him just staring at somebody, and even if he had he had a goofy face, right? He has a goofy little smile. Even him staring at a Native American, like looking at him, not saying anything. A guy who's banging a drum, like when they turn the angles on that, he was banging the drum so close to Nick Sandmann's face that he was actually blinking in sync with the banging because he was flinching, right? And Nathan Fillips, by the way, is a guy who also did multiple other hate crime hoaxes before. So people took that from this 16-year-old at the time and were like, this is white supremacy personified in a look. And that's how they treated him. And they were totally okay with it. I remember people were talking about how he had a punchable face, how they should kill him. Like, there were celebrities tweeting out that they should kill this kid, right? Like, not in the, like, Twitch goofy way, like in a video game. They were actually saying that they would want this kid dead because he looked at a Native American. Like, let me say that again. Because he looked at a Native American wearing a Trump hat, a Native American that approached him and started with him, people who are mainstream celebrities were saying that this kid should be killed. Like, insane. And I remember Tim Pool did the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were talking to the CEO of Twitter, and he was asking why this person got banned or that person got banned, and they would say, this is a threat, that is a threat. But then he asked him straight up, what about this person directly threatening Nick Sandmann's life? Like, one of them offered a bounty. They offered, like, platinum albums to kill this kid, to burn down the school. And that was totally fine. Like, crazy, right? And yeah, they just weren't banned. They just weren't banned. They weren't even. They were like, they had to take down the tweets. I think it was Kathy Lee Griffin. Yeah, no problem. All right. I got some emojis for the hype train. Thank you guys for the hype train.
Being from Kentucky, the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, my classmates and I visited the Lincoln Memorial. I found myself face to face with Nathan Phillips and other professional protesters looking to turn me into the latest poster child showing why Trump is bad, while the media portrayed me as an aggressor with a relentless smirk on my face. In reality, the video confirms I was standing with my hands behind my back and an awkward smile on my face that hid two thoughts. One, don't do anything that might further agitate the man banging a drum in my face. And two, I was trying to follow a family friend's advice, never to do anything to embarrass your family, your school, or your community. Before I knew what was happening, it was over. One of Mr. Phillips' fellow agitators yelled out, "We got him. It's all right here on video." And
I mean, that is Phillips' chick. Like, he's done that before. Like, this is not even in dispute. He got caught doing this. So Nathan Phillips, for those of you who don't know, there was he called the police saying that that he saw some college kids on a campus and they were wearing like Native American headdress at a party, and he blamed a specific frat for it. And he said, when I went over to talk to them about cultural appropriation, these guys just threw beer cans on me and they told me to get out of here, and they threw me out. Like, you know, it's a 1960s movie, and this guy's a black person, right? That's what they basically claimed. He claimed that happened. So they go to the frat house. The police find no party. On top of that, the frat schedules out all of their parties. There was no party scheduled for that day, let alone a Native American themed party. So it just never happened. And that's like one confirmed hoax that he did before, plus this one. Like, that's this guy's shtick. And I remember people played up that, like, this guy was a veteran and all that, and it's fine. Like, he did serve his country, but he did repair refrigerators in the military. And he had a bunch of things that could have led him to get a dishonorable discharge. But again, that's neither here nor there. He got the discharge. Thank you for your service. I appreciate that. That does not permit you to bang a drum in front of a child's head to get a video because you're doing a stunt and then try to lie about that. Like, this guy went and cried, and he said specifically, like, it's not like he felt a certain way because a kid was looking at him. He said specifically the kids were screaming, build a wall at him. There's video from multiple angles. There's not one build a wall in all of that. Like, he lied. 100%.
We won, Grandpa. What I thought was a strange encounter quickly developed into a major news story, complete with video footage. My life changed forever in that one moment. The full war machine of the mainstream media revved up into attack mode. They did so without researching the full video of the incident, without ever investigating Mr. Phillips' motives, or without ever asking me for my side of the story.
Yeah, but why would they do that, though? But they already have their story. Like, why would they do that? They have the exact part of the story that they want. Didn't you know Nick Sandmann is white? He was wearing a Trump hat, and a Native American confronted him, but he said that they were encircled. Everything Nathan Phillips said was not true, but yeah, why would they even get a story? Is that like a thing you do in journalism? I've never heard of that.
And do you know why? Because the truth was not important. Advancing their anti-Christian, anti-conservative, anti-Donald Trump narrative was all that mattered.
If he would have said anti-Christian, anti-conservative, anti-pro-life, which is also true, they always dog the pro-life march. Like, whether you agree with them or not, that is the thing that happens. And if they would have added on top of that anti-white narrative, they would be calling Nick Sandmann the white nationalist.
And if advancing their narrative ruined the reputation and future of a teenager from Covington, Kentucky, well, so be it. That would teach him not to wear a MAGA hat. I learned what was happening to me had a name. It was called being canceled, as in annulled, as in revoked, as in made void.
I mean, being canceled, it's really being smeared. Nick, I'm on your side, but it is really being smeared. It's not like I hate that anytime the canceled does not seem serious. You know what I mean? So whenever you're having a conversation about this kind of thing happening, and then you're like, "Oh, and cancel culture, let me tell you about that." It's like, no, they smeared him, they harassed him, they threatened his life. Like, all of that is above and beyond canceled. Like, again, they called culinary schools around the country because they heard he wanted to be a chef, gave them his first and last name, and said that he was a racist who hated Native Americans. This is things that people did based on the news media. Like, ridiculous.
Canceled is what's happening to people around this country who refuse to be silenced by the far left. Many are being fired, humiliated, or even threatened. And often, the media is a willing participant. But I would not be canceled. I fought back hard to expose the media for what they did to me, and I won a personal victory. While much more must be done, I look forward to the day that the media returns to providing balanced, responsible, and accountable news coverage. I know President Trump hopes for that too. And I know you'll agree with me when we say that no one in this country has been a victim of unfair media coverage more than President Donald Trump.
Orange man, good. I mean, honestly, bro, like, Trump's the president. He's definitely had has like unfair coverage. I mean, just look at the way that they say he said good people on both sides thing. That's 100%. I'm not denying. There's plenty of other examples. But you were a child when this happened. I don't know if he's an adult yet, but this happened to a child. They harassed him. He had no PR team. They got his entire smear job out there in the public, so much so that there are people on the left who still think that this kid is a racist who hates Native Americans and all that nonsense. He's been smeared worse in proportion to who he is than Donald Trump. Like, Trump's the president. Like, you're going to have media on your side and against you. Like, not saying that they cover him fairly, but, like, keep it real. Like, Nick Sandmann had worse happen to him because, again, child, didn't ask to be a public figure. He was made a public figure by a press that were just looking to attack somebody because they didn't like the hat he was wearing. They didn't like the color of his skin. They thought the story was too good to fact check. Somebody's like, link the OnlyFans.
In November, I believe this country must unite around a president who calls the media out and refuses to allow them to create a narrative instead of reporting the facts. I believe we must join a president who will challenge the media to return to objective journalism. And together, I believe we must all embrace our First Amendment rights and not hide in fear of the media or from the tech companies or from the outrage mob either.
Oh my god, Fox, like, learn to position your stuff. What is this?
This is worth fighting for. This is worth voting for. And this is what Donald Trump stands for.
Really, Fox? You're gonna do me like that?
Thank you all for listening to me tonight.
Alright.
And one more thing. Let's make America great again.
Yeah, Fox. Oops. Fox, you totally ruined Nick Sandmann's little moment right there. All right, I gotta get that last part. You guys deserve to see the thing that makes all the Trump people happy. Nick Sandmann RNC speech. All right, can't use the Fox News one. Oh, we'll do PBS. I wish I could find the CNN one because him talking crap about CNN on CNN is hilarious. Fox, you blew it. You got it.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay, let's do CBS. All right, this is what you guys want to see, right? This is the big moment. Somebody's like, Orange Man is good though. All right, Fox totally buried me on there. If this happens again on PBS, I'm gonna be pissed.
This is worth fighting for. This is worth voting for. And this is what Donald Trump stands for. Thank you all for listening to me tonight. And one more thing. Let's make America great again.
Oh, there's his hat. Damn, PBS cut that quick. He was gonna smile at the camera and be like, Nathan, come and take it. Bring it on, Nathan Phillips. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Ann Dorn one, way more impactful, way more powerful speech. Nick Sandmann, decent. Everything he said is true. But you could tell that, again, this situation chose Nick Sandmann. It wasn't chosen by him. Because he's a kid. He's not prepared for it. Like, it's not the best speech or whatever. And in terms of delivery, like, the words are fine. I'm fine with everything that he said. I don't think he said anything wrong. But there's a huge, like, difference in scale. Like, that level of emotion and all that, it seemed like I just got a nervous kid. Like, I got the emotion and that powerful speech from Ann Dorn. That, like, righteous anger. And from Nick Sandmann, he's a kid. So, but still, I'm totally fine with it. And he was wronged by the media, for sure. Undeniably. But, yeah, it was pretty nice. And you could see the difference, too, because Nick Sandmann was a Trump fan prior to. I don't know the story about Ann Dorn, but Nick Sandmann was a Trump fan prior to. So in comparison to her speech, she just mentioned him at the end, which is like, I'm at the convention, I guess I will. Like, Nick Sandmann mentioned him multiple times throughout, and he said nobody's been attacked more by the press than our president, right? So that's different.